Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of April 1st, 2026. April Fool's Day, everybody. I guess the joke Rocky and I played on you is that we didn't have the DC Spotlight out late Tuesday, early Wednesday, as usual. Sorry, life gets in the way sometimes. But anyway, we're here. We've got, I think, 10 books we're going to talk about. Pretty underwhelming week in a lot of ways, which is kind of interesting. We have talked about how recently, or at least I've talked about recently, how there's been a lot more people that have showed up at my local comic shop. I guess the Pokemon speculators need something else to spec on. But there wasn't really a big independent book this week to spec on. There weren't a lot of absolute titles. We just had Absolute Superman. So all that to say, yeah, it was sort of back to normal at my comic shop this week. There wasn't the usual crowd that has been there like the last 6 weeks. Although I wasn't there last week, but I did text one of the regulars and ask them, and they said there still was a bunch of people showing up, but not this week. But there was one surprise when it comes to surprise books, surprise things. It's usually Robert Kirkman, who kind of longs for the days of yore when we used to not have solicitations that gave away everything and social media and all that sort of stuff. And so Comics the Magazine from Prana Direct Market Solutions had its second issue come out. Now, it's always supposed to be out the first week of the month. The first issue came out the second week, basically because they got way more orders, which is a good problem to have. They just got way more orders than they thought they were going to. So the initial outlay that they had to pay their printer to print, whatever it was, 300,000 copies or whatever ridiculous number, they just weren't prepared for that. So they had to delay it a week while they kind of moved some resources around so they could pay for their print run. So again, good problem to have. The second issue came out on time, first week of the month, as it's going to continue to be the first week every month. But the surprise thing was there is a new Robert Kirkman title coming out. It was announced at Comics Pro. It's called Terminal. Art Adams is doing the art for it. And we know he's not the fastest in the world, but neither is David Finch. And obviously, Kirkman gave him whatever it was, 3-4 years to do Skinbreaker. So I have the same confidence that a vast majority of Terminal, or a huge chunk of it, is done already. And there are some other artists that are involved too. It's not just Art Adam. But it doesn't come out till the week of San Diego Comic-Con. As a surprise, this was not announced to anybody. It didn't leak until like the night before. I think Bleeding Cool had an article that for every 25 copies of Comics the Magazine issue 2 that a shop ordered, they got one Comics the Magazine issue 2 with the Terminal cover. So this is the first cover appearance of these characters. Just like that Miles Morales on previews, people, it actually predates when he showed up in Ultimate Fallout 4. Same kind of thing. So I imagine it's already going for like $30 on eBay. And I think Comics the Magazine retails for $2.99. So that was kind of the only spec thing that came out. My shop had 2 of them. And I should have just grabbed both. They wouldn't have sold me both because, that's not fair. But I picked up one and I left the other on the shelf. And I was telling one of my friends about how rare it was. And this other guy who we don't really know was kind of eavesdropping. And he reached over and grabbed it before my friend could get it. And my friend's like, "Oh, are you going to get that?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Damn, I should have just picked them up both and, been like, 'Hey, do you want it?' If not, I could have put it back." But anyway, I'll grab it and show you guys in just a second. It's a really cool cover. We don't know that many details about what Terminal is going to be about, but with the track record that Kirkman has, Invincible, Walking Dead, 2 of the biggest comic properties, certainly the 2 biggest non-Big 2 properties. So that was kind of the only thing. And again, because it wasn't speculated on, days and days before, I think people just didn't show up. So we'll see. There's some other books coming out next week. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, as far as DC goes, again, it was an okay week. There were a couple okay books, but there just wasn't anything that like really stood out in my mind, and a couple things underwhelmed, and we'll talk about that. But how did you feel the week was overall, Rocky?
It was very underwhelming, but again, DC's has been having a pretty good streak. So they publish increasingly more and more comic books, especially with DC Next Level coming out, especially with the Vertigo line coming out. And so look, there's going to be weeks where there's such a variety of comic books, a variety of characters. I just want to emphasize: do not be dismayed just because Jason and I, when we talk, we might feel it's a little underwhelming week. Other people, you might love it because there's such a variety. It just so happens the particular comics that came out this week, for whatever reason, didn't hit me. Like some of the past weeks do, because a lot of how I feel about a week, it's cumulative. It's not just there's one comic this week that I really enjoyed, but if it's with a group of what I consider to be a little underwhelming for the week, my overall impression might be a little bit down. But that doesn't mean that it's not a week we're checking out, because this is, again, we have such a ridiculously wonderful problem here that because we get so many DC comics that we read all the time, it's understandable that we're going to have occasionally, we're going to have some weeks that might feel a little bit underwhelming, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't a great week for others. So I don't want to take the wind out of the sails of people who really enjoyed this week, especially since we're doing these reviews late. There might be a lot of people that take issues with some of our comments, and so be it, and they can leave a comment themselves and straighten us out.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I didn't think there was any stinkers this week, but nothing was, just, oh my God, blew me away. Actually, my favorite comic that I read this week was Daredevil #1. If you guys want my thoughts on that, you can head over to the Comicsverse YouTube channel, where I did a review, and I thought it was outstanding. And I had already ordered 2 covers for that, but then when I was at my local comic shop, I went in and picked up this cover too.
Muse.
Which is like a trading card Muse. Yeah, he's going to be in the new season of Daredevil, created by Charles Soule. That's like my favorite run of Daredevil to date. I also picked up this Tyler Rake. This is an Ignition Press book, which is really great, fantastic cover.
That's based off the Netflix movie.
The Extraction movies. But this is Comics Magazine #2. So Battle Beast cover, as you can see, pretty slick. But then this is the one, and it says right across the top there, you found the secret variant. And you can see it's the, I don't know if you can tell in the price there. I paid $19.99 for it.
Nice.
Sorry, the glare on but yeah, you can see there's the terminal character or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty cool. Like I said, they're going for anywhere from 20 and 30 on eBay. I figured I badmouth these speculators. I'm doing the same thing, right? Like I'm hoping that blows up someday. Like imagine if you had a chance to go back and get, first cover appearance of Invincible, if it wasn't on Invincible 1 or what have you, so.
Oh man, it's impossible to be a comic collector and not be a hypocrite occasionally. I bitch about variant covers all the time, and every week I'm calling my retailer, get me this one, get me this cover, get me this cover.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's sort of inherent in the collectability of the book. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the books this week. I don't know that we'll necessarily go any quicker than we usually do. But I think Rocky and I both had a hard time picking a top 5, and I know for sure I have books in my top 5 that wouldn't be in my top 5 in a stronger week. One for sure, my number 5 book for sure wouldn't be in. But anyway, I was looking forward to this book. The first one we're going to talk about, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, number 50, being that it's a 50th issue spectacular, anniversary issue. There's 2 stories in it. They're both written by Mark Waid. The first one is Dream Team. Mark Waid, Dan Mora on art, Tamara Bonvillain on colors, Steve Wands on letters. And then the second one, Sturm und Drang. As I said, also by Mark Waid, but Adrian Gutierrez does the art on that one. Luis Guerrero on colors, Steve Wands on letters. I was not impressed by this. I just thought, I guess it's my own fault. I had higher expectations for an issue 50. And I thought this was just okay. The funnest thing or the coolest thing about it is the first story has to do with like dreams and nightmares, if you will. And we get a chance to see when Batman and Superman go into the dream world. Superman's driving a supermobile, but not like a supermobile like we've ever seen before. It's basically, you take the 1966 Batmobile, the famous one from the TV show, and rebrand it as Superman's car instead. So, it's got kind of the bubble windscreens, and it's got the sort of hooded headlights and whatever. And it just looks really cool. That was kind of the thing about this that was the most fun. Other than that, it was just sort of a run-of-the-mill, non-memorable story. I didn't really think that it was anything special. And when it comes to, a 50th anniversary, I was kind of expecting a little more.
Yeah.
Now I will say that it was good to see Thunderboy. You know, we've seen him show up, here and there, and it's nice that hasn't been forgotten, if you will. Um, so, yeah, again, and Doctor Destiny, who's the villain, he's not really that memorable. I mean, I know he was part of the Night Terrors event. You guys all know how we felt about that. So, yeah, it was only okay. There's some humor in the second story, and some hints about the whole um, relationship between Robin, Dick Grayson, and Supergirl. And so again, it was kind of fun, but ultimately not that memorable. And we all know I'm not the biggest fan of the Adrian Gutierrez art either. So again, I was expecting more of this issue, and to be honest, it kind of let me down. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it didn't make my top five. It came in last for me, actually. Put it
Wow.
last. Yeah.
Well, well, it came in at number 6 for me, and I do want to say, just as almost like a sort of maybe an underhanded or overhanded apology to Mark Waid. Mark Waid's the victim of his own great writing on this title. He has spoiled me with good stories, so these are good stories. I just was expecting more because it's the 50th, and because Mark Waid has delivered, 90% of the time. I'm really enjoying World's Finest. I was just surprised that one of the more underwhelming issues would be the 50th issue, but that's okay. I mean, there's 49 others that are pretty decent. The first-ish story, and this is probably not Mark Waid's fault, but I got PTSD from Night Terrors, which is an event from DC that I didn't enjoy. I saw Mr. Destiny. I thought we got this story before. It was just more dream sequences of Batman and Superman, and it was fun. It was interesting seeing the car, and it had some good moments, which is what Mark Waid's frankly delivered. Mark, it's a decent enough story. I just thought it was underwhelming. Kudos to, I think Dan Mora does the art for both stories, does he not?
Adrian Gutierrez does art for the second one.
Right, Dan Mora does the first one for Dream Team, and then the second one is, I think that's
Adrian Gutierrez.
Yeah, Sturm und Drang. I don't know why is it called that? Is that backwards for something?
No.
Anyways, yeah. In any event, the second story I was a little disappointed because Supergirl and Batgirl. I like the premise. Supergirl and Batgirl get together and they sort of challenge Batman and Superman. Pit the girls against the boys. Dick Grayson and Jimmy Olsen versus Supergirl and Batgirl as to who can solve the mystery of some archaeological dig. And I was really surprised that there wasn't much hint of, Supergirl and Dick Grayson have went on a date, and there doesn't seem to be any indication that Batgirl's aware of this, or that she's reacting to it. I was just really surprised by that. There was an opportunity that Mark Waid had to really delve into that, and I thought it was a missed opportunity, and it was just a surprise to me. That's one of the things I was most interested in. But it was a good enough story, but it was just, I thought there was a missed opportunity there, and I was just surprised by this. This was an underwhelming issue overall, but entertaining. If you're with World's Finest this far, I mean, you're gonna stick with World's Finest because, I mean, good art, decent enough story, but probably a little bit. I think it's going to surprise most people at how, maybe a little bit how underwhelming it is. But again, that's just our subjective opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not overtly acknowledged, but I think that's where the tension comes from in the issue, the date that Robin and Supergirl had. So I think that's kind of the point of the rivalry. And a Drang is the Kryptonian dragon that the Durlan is turned into in the end, so that must be his name. Sturm as a Drang, I'm guessing. So, yeah. But again, like you said, very, very underwhelming. Speaking of underwhelming, before we get to the next issue, just in case anybody's wondering why I'm not talking about WonderCon, I was just there on Friday. I didn't even post any pics. It was completely dead. Completely. I've never seen it so empty. And I'm not just saying there was no people there and there was empty spaces on the show floor where normally there are booths and publishers, but there was booths set up and artist alley spots set up that nobody was occupying. I don't know how that show continues. It was ridiculous. I did talk to some retailers on Friday, and they said they were doing okay on Friday. And then I left Friday night. I left LA Friday night because I was only in town for my day job. I wouldn't have gone to the show otherwise. But then I talked to some people that were there Saturday, and they said Saturday was busier, but a lot of people just walking around not spending money. And they talked to those same retailers that I talked to on Friday, and those retailers were like, yeah, I'm probably not coming back. I'm not making any money, what have you. One of my friends had probably the best idea for WonderCon and rebranding. Wonder How They Make Any Money Con is what they should call it, which I thought was pretty appropriate. And here's the other part of it. And I get that the showrunners don't always have a choice of when they're going to put on the show. You had C2E2 the same weekend. You had Planet City Comic-Con the same weekend. Those were both really busy from my understanding. So not everybody can be at every show, at the same time. It makes it tough. There's also a Fan Expo, Anaheim, that's coming in June, just a few weeks before San Diego Comic-Con. I don't know that that's the best time either. I think WonderCon is far enough up in the calendar. So does Fan Expo Anaheim end up displacing WonderCon and they stop doing it? I kind of think they should in a way, only because, Fan Expo's for profit. They're going to bring in the guests, the celebrities and what have you that are going to drive people to go, even if there are other shows going on. So maybe that might be better. Not that I'm the biggest fan of Fan Expo as an organization, but what that would allow Comic-Con International, that puts on WonderCon and San Diego Comic-Con, and now they're doing an international Comic-Con called Comic-Con Malaga. They could maybe do another international show, maybe do 2 international shows and 1 U.S. show. And I only say that because, yes, they're not for profit. They're not trying to make money, and they don't have stockholders or anything like that. But they do need to make money in order to keep putting on the shows, right? The shows at least have to be self-sustaining. So maybe forget about WonderCon. It's not working anymore because basically Hollywood has pulled out. And other than these big shows like New York Comic-Con and San Diego Comic-Con, basically, Marvel and DC, they're not going to exhibit. They're just not going to do it. It takes too much money and too much resources. They've shown time and again, they're just not going to show up at the smaller shows anymore. It's those 2 shows, San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con, and that's it. Image may do, a few others, but even now, them and Boom and...
Well, where is WonderCon? You never said, where is WonderCon?
It's Anaheim. It's at the Anaheim Convention Center.
Oh, okay.
And that's exactly where Fan Expo Anaheim will be. So who knows what's to come of it? But yeah, it was quite sad to see. That used to be one of my favorite shows, partly because even though I'd have press responsibilities, I would have enough free time to hang out with my friends. It's close to Disneyland. We'd walk over to Trader Sam's near Disneyland and have drinks. And on Friday night, drink a bunch of sugary drinks and have fun. And Saturday night, we'd all go out to dinner together. And it just doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, it was very poorly attended. So yeah, Wonder How They Make Any Money Con, completely accurate. So we'll see how it all plays out. Anyway, let's get back to the books. Batman Static Beyond, issue number 5 is up next. Balance and Power, story by Evan Narcisse, art by Miguel Mendoza, colors by Will Quintana, letters by Wes Abbott. Love the art. Miguel Mendoza is one of my favorite artists. And this series has gotten substantially better since the first couple issues. First issue especially, I was kind of like, I don't know where it's going. Second issue, I was still lost. Issue 3, 4, 5, it's really locked in. All that being said, this comes in for me at number 6. Didn't quite make my top 5, only because it felt like a little bit of a setup issue. I think previously issue 4, like I said, the first 2 issues felt kind of weak. Issue 3 felt like it locked in. Issue 4 ramped up the tension, was even better. Now we're coming back down a little bit, probably just to set up a big climactic finish. I've said it 1,000 times. You have to have those ups and downs, contrasts between issues for the story beats to hit. So 3 was on the upswing, 4 it peaked. This issue 5, it's down just a tad, and I imagine it's going to swing back up for issue 6. Again, gorgeous art, and I am curious to see how it all plays out. I really do like Failsafe as a villain. Makes a lot of sense, this young, confused kid and the reason he's doing the things he's doing. Plus, I like his costume design. I love him having that pretty much all black costume with the power symbol on his face. Really great. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this ends. But yeah, it comes in at number 6 for me this week. What are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
Well, it came in at number 7 for me. I like the storyline. I like an older Static with a younger Batman Beyond. So the older Static is more the mentor figure. This isn't Elseworld's tale after all. So Batman Beyond is the younger figure. The Failsafe, sort of the villain. I like the intergalactic aspect of it because other planets in the galaxy they want to sort of they kind of want to take over Earth, but they want the Q juice, the Q energy, that static and the guy he's trying to befriend, the failsafe. They seem to be able to channel this Q juice, Q energy very well, and so that's why Earth's getting all the intergalactic attention from the Tamaranians and what have you. And so I like the way that it explores that, and it's doing it. It's only 5 issues so far, so I find that with a lot about I find that with the Milestone universe as well, but also with Static, who's part of the Milestone universe. Even though this is an Elseworlds tale, I do find sometimes that there's not enough issues to really explore some of the more interesting concepts of story. But this is a story that is generally working for me, and I enjoyed it. It still doesn't quite. It doesn't quite have the pacing that I would like. It's a little choppy at times, but the art's fantastic, and the milestone related characters and story wise are getting better and better. And of course, a shout out, of course, to the Dakota City, sort of like the history of the DC universe, the Dakota incident #1, and went to a second printing. Kudos to that. So we're going to be seeing more and more of these milestone related characters gaining more prominence, and that's good. That's good news.
Yeah, cool cover from Dexter Soy has a really cool looking variant cover for that. All right, up next, Adventures of Superman, Book of L, issue #7 from writer Phillip Kennedy Johnson, art by Scott Godlewski, colors by Alex Gormas and Matt Herms, letters by Dave Sharp. Kind of similar in pacing to the book we were just talking about, Static, Batman Beyond. I think this is 8 issues, if I'm not mistaken. So I think next issue is the final one. And this also feels like we took just a little bit of a downturn. There's still plenty of action in it, but it does feel like it takes just a little bit of a downturn before we're getting the finale. So Scott Godlewski has done a good job on art. That continues in this particular issue. The main cover, which is also by Godlewski, which has I always get them mixed up. Osel is Otha.
Orso and Ursel.
Yeah, I always forget which one's the boy and which one's the girl. Otha Ra is the girl, and she's the one on the cover. And she's kind of peeking through the symbol and what have you, and it just looks really, really cool. But yeah, I'm just checking. No, I guess there's 9 issues. There's 9 issues total. So yeah, this is slowing down a little bit with issue 7 here before we start ramping up to the finale. So I thought it was okay. Comes in at #7 for me this week. Anything to add?
Not a heck of a lot. I mean, if story-wise, this is well told, but you really got to get into it, and it's a concerted read. There's a lot of characters. I don't find it's an easy read, and I do say just as a little bit of a mini rant of the worst editorial decisions, it's got to be the aging up of John Kent, the destruction of Superman's secret identity, and the third one for me is giving Superman orphan children as offspring. That was just and so I say that to let readers know that this is a good story. It's I think it's a little bit it can be a little bit a concerted read, but the art is fantastic for sure. And quite frankly, I mean, it does a good job dealing with the children. They're looking for their father in the future with the House of L. It's very sort of almost like a little bit Game of Thronesy, but with an interstellar galactic feel to it. So it's just so I don't want people to be interfered by my bias. It's just not my cup of tea for that reasons. But there is something here if you're into that science fiction and you like a more sort of like almost like an Elseworlds take on Superman, even though technically it might not be Elseworlds. Yeah,
just in fairness to DC editorial, I don't know if it was their decision or PKJ. It might have been Phillip Kennedy Johnson, but you're right in terms of this is the continuation of his saga. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're much better off having read it all. And if you haven't, you could find yourself a little bit lost. All right, up next we have Batman #8 from writer Matt Fraction. Ryan Sook does the interior art here, and I thought he did a fantastic job. Tomei Mori on colors, Clayton Cowell on letters. I love the interaction between Bruce Wayne and Alan Scott, Green Lantern. It, in a way, it kind of mirrors the interaction that we get between Madam Mayor Poison Ivy and the commissioner of the GCPD, Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage is a lot the subject of the conversation that Batman's having with Alan Scott, which is interesting. Alan Scott has been around for a long time, and Vandal Savage, as much as he's anyone's nemesis, is Golden Age Green Lantern's nemesis. So that's pretty interesting there, and kind of what's revealed and what have you is really great, but not dissimilar from what we were just talking about with the previous two books. This one is a little bit slower paced. This one is, a little bit less action and a little bit more setup, and it's perfectly sort of set up, if you will, by the last page when we get the newspaper headline that says, "Wanted, GCPD versus Batman and Robin. Mayor and Commissioner swore out warrants. Caper Crusaders' reign of lawlessness finally at an end." So yeah, Vandal Savage has basically convinced Poison Ivy to declare Batman and Robin as criminals, as fugitives. So again, this is set up, which is, it's interesting the choices that Matt Fraction's making, because we really got a lot of momentum going forward last issue with the Joker and this kind of new version of the Joker or whatever. And now all of a sudden we're pivoting to something else. And it brings me to one of the things that I'm enjoying most about Batman right now, but something that more modern readers, people who've come to comics much later than me, may not be enjoying as much. Certainly if you have come to comics post the year 2000, when everybody's writing for the trade and everything is a 6-issue arc. When Rocky and I were reading, especially back in the 80s, if you had on the cover some trade dress that said like part 1 of 4, and it was like a mini series within a series, that felt like something special, right? Like we got that with Death in the Family, with to use Batman as an example, since that's the book we're talking about, or 10 Nights of the Beast with KG Beast. It made it feel like an event where you had to show up. But other than that, a lot of the stories were 1 or 2 parters. Even with Superman, you had like Crisis of the Red Kryptonite, or what was it, Fallen Sky or something like that, where Superman teamed up with like Guy Gardner and the Guardian and a bunch of guys. And again, it made it feel special. Since post 2000, post Bendis writing Ultimate Spider-Man, everything is a 6-issue arc, and then it's collected in trade. Back then, you didn't really have trades, so it's a little bit of a different feel. But this Batman series from Fraction is a throwback. This is a kind of a standalone issue. The last 2 issues, those 2 issues with the Joker and what have you, they kind of stand on their own as just 2-part story. I'm enjoying this. The fact that you could give this to somebody and they, as a standalone issue, and they could read it and kind of understand what's going on. Yeah, there's context with Vandal Savage being the police commissioner. There's context and continuity with Poison Ivy being the mayor, whatever. But you can pick up the context that you need, within this story. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm loving that Fraction is content enough to start a plot and then leave it alone for a little while to kind of let it just lay fallow for a little while and build up tension, right? Like we saw the whole the Taurus guy with the giant bull head on one of the previous covers. I think it was issue 6, 1% or whatever, finance guy for the villains of Gotham, and now he's gone away. It's been 3 or 4 issues and we haven't seen him. So, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm enjoying this, but I could see why some people might be turned off by it, because it's like, where's the story? Can we get to somewhere already? But in Matt Fraction, I trust. So I'm really, really enjoying it. So yeah, did I give my ranking? It's in my top 3. Yeah, it's in my top 3.
Yeah, I thought this was okay. It was all setup issue. I actually put this at number 9 for me. It was just although it's all setup, and I guess you need setup. It's just such a downer from where Fraction was how he started off this arc. But one of the things that a necessary reveal is why, Batman talking to Alan Scott is really great, because Alan Scott is the classic. That was the golden age, sort of the classic standoff between Alan Scott and Vandal Savage are classic mortal enemies. And Alan Scott does know Vandal Savage. But they figure out here, they actually they deduce that Vandal Savage can't leave Gotham City. And that's a good reminder to people, because Vandal Savage usually doesn't stick around in one spot for very long. The fact that he's stuck around Gotham, they sort of deduce that he can't leave for some reason. And they figure out it's probably because of what happened at the end of that Gotham, Gotham War storyline, where there was that explosion and suddenly, Catwoman went off to explore 9 Lives storyline under Teenie Howard, and then Vandal Savage couldn't leave Gotham City. And so that's significant. And so what is Vandal Savage doing? He's staying in Gotham City, and he's likely trying to get some revenge. He's trying to remake Gotham into his own image or whatever that might be, while getting revenge on Batman. And it just makes a lot of sense. I also think it's very interesting that Poison Ivy is mayor, and we're going to be reviewing Poison Ivy 43 this week. And it makes sense that Poison Ivy, because Poison Ivy is, in many ways, Poison Ivy is a typical Gotham mayor insofar as she's frankly she's very corrupt. And we'll be getting into that when we review her comic, but she's not frankly a very good mayor, even though she's well-intentioned. She engages in She's as corrupt as some of the worst of Gotham mayors, and we'll get into that when we review Poison Ivy and whatever her justifications might be. And the fact that she wants to, I think she's an easy sell, Vandal Savage convincing Mayor Ivy to, let me go after Batman and Robin. I think that's an easy sell. So there's some consistencies there, and I like that. And I think for that reason, even though I ranked this low, I think Fraction needed to do this issue. Like you said, it is basically you could just read this as a standalone, which is excellent. He wrote it well, but it's also necessary as a backdrop to underscore the foundations of the larger story he's trying to tell.
We're gonna have fun when Poison Ivy rolls around.
Yeah.
All right, Absolute Superman number 18 is up next. It's in my top 3. Jason Aaron's the writer, Rafa Sandoval on art, Ulysses Ariola on colors. We get a chance to see. It's only on the final page, but basically Black Adam, or they're calling him King Shazam here. We see the absolute version of Black Adam, otherwise known as King Shazam here. We also get in this issue the absolute version of Steel, John Henry Irons' version of Steel. So a couple of new characters that show up, but at least it's not every single issue the way it is in Absolute Batman. I enjoyed this. Like I said, it's in my top 3. I'm curious as your thoughts, Rocky. You go first.
Yeah, this is in my top 3 too. I really enjoyed this. I particularly like, well, first of all, Absolute Shazam, King Shazam shows up, and I like Jason. I like the origin that he gives him. That this King Shazam has all the hallmarks of, even though it's King Shazam, is it perhaps more of really an absolute Black Adam? Isn't that really what it is? Or that's what it kind of feels like, an absolute Black Adam, but calling it King Shazam, I kind of like that as well. I also like what leads to it, because at the central, for me, my favorite part of this issue is this was really a story. I consider this issue for me almost like a Lois Lane story, because Lois Lane wants revenge, and Lois Lane has this struggle within her. She admires and loves Superman because he stands for something, and he's better. He represents the best of humanity, of what humanity can aspire to, especially in an absolute universe bombarded with omega particles where people are more inclined to embrace darkness than maybe the light. But Lois herself, she can't resist the temptation. She wants to kill Talia al Ghul. She wants to kill Talia for killing her father. And so she's got that thirst for revenge. And I love the fact that Superman shows up just as she's confronting Talia. And Talia is with her father, Ra's al Ghul, and Ra's has lost his edge. He's lost his evil edge. He's reformed. The impact that Superman had on him, reading him those letters from the children who suffered under Ra's al Ghul, but still chose to forgive him and love him anyway. It had an impact on Ra's al Ghul, and it disgusts Talia. She wants to reject her father. Meanwhile, Lois shows up and she wants to kill Talia, and Superman shows up wanting to stop her from doing that. And I love the interaction. It felt real. It felt each character, you could feel the position of each character. You could feel the anger of Talia Ghul toward her father. What the hell did Superman do to you? Why have you changed? What happened to my father, the one that wanted to take over what happened to you? And then you can also sympathize with Ra's al Ghul, who just wants his daughter to change. It's my fault that you're like this, and you can see Superman not wanting Lois to give in to temptation that he almost did under the machinations of Brainiac in the first few story arcs. I thought this was just excellent. And then of course we got the absolute John Henry Iron shows up. I'm assuming it's absolute steel with the hammer, and just so much happens in this issue, really, and I'm just giving the hallmarks of what I enjoyed. I thought it was really well done. And then to top it off, I didn't even need King Shazam to show up, but they're fighting right above, Ra's al Ghul reminds Talia, quit shooting at Superman, quit causing some chaos here, because you know what's buried here. And of course, they end up accidentally freeing this King Shazam, whose origin is also told in the issue. But I don't need to go into that. I encourage people to check out the issue and read the details on that. But overall, this was just an excellent issue. It clearly has set a whole bunch of stuff up, while at the same time continuing to develop those characters that we've grown to love since issue 1.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily get this. I saw some other people talking about it, so, credit where credit's due. Mm-hmm. The character in the story that sort of foretells the coming of a sort of a savior and talks about, this guy will come, and she's back in ancient Egypt, and she's talking to the, Egyptian slaves who are enslaved in such a way, like not unlike they would be, worshiping Vandal Savage or what have you. But she talks about a savior coming and how he wears a cape made out of the remnants of his planet. And clearly she's referencing Superman. And King Shazam being, one of those slaves and not wanting to wait for the savior, wanting to be the savior himself and take matters into his own hands. But the point being that prophet, the female who's walking among them, they call her a stranger. Apparently that's the absolute fandom stranger. It's not called out in the book, but I heard other people mention that, and that makes sense.
Sure, it does, yeah. I can buy that. Sure.
So, one more, first appearance here for everybody. So,
wow.
Going back to the idea of speculation like we were talking about earlier, might be an important book to pick up because you've got three first appearances all in
That's
one,
right.
A triple key. So, but I agree with a lot of what Rocky said. The interactions, especially the fact that Absolute Superman had made such an impact on Ra's al Ghul to where Talia's ready to kill him. Like, you're not my father anymore. Like, she's ready to just run him through. I'll lead Lazarus. You're useless, whatever. That's really interesting. She's like, what did you do to him? He read to me, whatever. Just through example, like showing what powerful effect Superman can have. It really is so interesting what Jason Aaron has done, right? What is this, issue 18 here? And I wouldn't go so far as to say that Absolute Superman feels like sort of he's completed his journey. He's become a hero. He's got all the self-confidence that we come to have expect from Superman, comfortable in his own skin and that kind of thing. He's still in that transitional phase. But if you go back and look at how full of self-doubt he was at the beginning of this series, he really has grown as a character. Like, he was in hiding back then. He had the crutch of soul, the artificial intelligence that was infused in his cape that was no longer there. So he doesn't have that crutch. He has to be a little more self-reliant. Like, he really has grown so much as a character but it's been so subtle, and it's taken time, and Jason Aaron is taking his time, and that's interesting because you don't necessarily see it from issue to issue. But again, if you're looking at this as issue 18 and you go back to issue 1 and compare the two characters, you can see how far he's come because it's been a subtle journey throughout. So kudos to that. The other thing that I want to mention, and it also goes hand in hand with characterization, it's the continuation to evolve this supporting cast as well. Specifically in this issue, Jimmy Olsen, who's trying to kind of establish a more mainstream life. He was working for the Omega Men, which turned out to be sort of a double agent organization headed by Talia, which they didn't realize. And he's trying to build sort of a regular life for himself while maintaining that friendship with Superman. He has sort of the absolute version of the Signal Watch, if you will. He's working at the Daily Planet, what have you. And you would expect Lois to be following those footsteps as well, being that she's Lois Lane, investigative reporting skills and what have you. And even though she worked for Lazarus at the beginning of the series from Jason Aaron, she had those tendencies. She knew which questions to ask the uncomfortable questions and what have you, specifically when it pertained to getting questions about who Superman really was. So that was all there. So you would expect her to sort of be right there in the trenches at the Daily Planet, speaking truth to power alongside Jimmy Olsen. But that's not the case, right? Like, because Talia killed her father, she's out for revenge and what have you. And so that juxtaposition between the two, it's almost like they've flipped positions in a way. Lois was kind of the more responsible, dependable one, and Jimmy Olsen early on was the one who was a little less reliable, tended to fly by the seat of his pants a little bit more than Lois, as it were. And now they've almost switched positions in a way, with Lois being maybe a little bit more willing to sort of throw caution to the wind to achieve her goals, if you will, a little more impetuous. So I like that. And it'll be interesting to see if Lois can be pulled back. Like, does it have to be that Talia is killed, that she's satisfied with her revenge? Can Superman convince her that it's not going to bring her father back and not the right thing to do, to lower herself to the level of Lazarus and what have you? Like that's really an interesting dilemma, right? We talked about the strength of character for Superman to be able to have such an effect on Ra's al Ghul, who's lived for centuries having a certain belief system, and the fact that Superman was able to alter that. That's very powerful. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Lois is very hard-headed and very stubborn. So.
And Talia's asking for it. I mean, Talia is taunting her. I mean, Lois has a gun pointed at her head, and she's just taunting Lois. Like, go ahead.
Talia, grade A B. She's a grade A B. 100%.
For sure.
She doesn't. She's not to the level of Amanda Waller for me in terms of how much I despise her, but only because I haven't been exposed to her as much. But she's that level of B, completely. So, also the Rafa Sandoval art is fantastic. A couple of fantastic covers as well. So continues to be a great read. Continues to be my favorite of the absolute titles. All right, we mentioned it before. Now we're here. Poison Ivy issue number 43. From writer G. Willow Wilson, Jaime Infante on the art, Arif Prianto on colors, Hassan Otsman Elhel, I'm trying to talk too fast, on letters. Yeah, this is Poison Ivy running Gotham as the mayor. And Rocky alluded to her doing things that maybe aren't on the up and up. I would push back on the idea of corruption. I wouldn't say corrupt. To me, corruption is taking bribes and lining your own pockets. She's doing things that are not legal, 100%. I agree with that. But she's doing them in the belief that they're what's best for Gotham, which, you gotta break some eggs to make an omelet, right? So I'm still on Poison Ivy's side here. I mean, specifically what we're talking about is she's taking people that have worked for the city of Gotham, that have taken money from the city of Gotham, contractors and what have you, plumbing contractors, construction crews and what have you, literally taken money from the taxpayers of Gotham and cut corners and done things that were unsafe for the infrastructure and whatever, lining their own pockets. to me, they're the corrupt. That's where the corruption is, and she's trying to root that corruption out. But she's pulling no punches. She's not doing it the right way. She's not doing it the moral way. She's just killing them. She's like, let's cut out the red tape here now.
That's what I was talking about. I was talking about the murder. You can. I think you're apples and oranges if you're trying to. I think murder versus corruption.
To me, it's not. No, it's not. It's not, because corruption is when something is perverted. In my mind, when you're talking political corruption, that's somebody that's been corrupted by the power of it. And I suppose you could make the argument, she's been corrupted in that she's, killing people, except that's no different. She hasn't been corrupted. She's been killing people all along. You know what I'm saying? Like, she hasn't been changed. All she's done is take her behavior that she's had throughout the series that we talked about from the very beginning, of her killing people and G. Willow Wilson taking her back to a more villainous tack. And just because she's been elected mayor of Gotham, that behavior doesn't change. So she hasn't been corrupted in as much as been changed. She's just bringing that corruption to the mayor's office. So yeah, is it semantics? Yeah, it's semantics a little bit. But again, she's cutting out the middleman, and that's where it morally, I start to question it, right? Like, I get that you're trying to make Gotham better. I get that these people are getting their comeuppance, because who knows how many people have been harmed, have been killed, have been, maybe in the case of improperly disposing of sewage, have been sickened, have contracted diseases. What amount of pain and suffering have these corrupt vendors and contractors that have worked for Gotham City? Like, how much misery have they caused? Right. So they're totally getting their just desserts, but Poison Ivy is denying them their due process. They're not. She's playing judge, jury, and executioner, and that's the problem. That's the thing that is unfortunate. Now, you could say, well, they deserve it or whatever, but what happens if she kills somebody who maybe didn't deserve it because she's given false information or what have you? Like, we're not really privy into the hard details of, how much is she vetting these people? How much evidence does she have against them? So, in this country, at least in the United States, and maybe it does feel like this has changed over the years, but the basic principle remains that it's better to let a guilty man go free than to execute an innocent man. And I actually used to be for the death penalty way back in the day. And then it was my philosophy class, my sophomore year of college, where I got assigned the death penalty, and I did a bunch of research on it, whatever. And I thought I went into it, I was totally pro death penalty. And then once I read about the system and the way it worked, I came out the other end like completely anti, because it doesn't work. It's not a detriment. It ends up costing more than keeping somebody actually in prison for life, and all these different things. So I'm bringing a little bit of that lefty attitude to this, I guess. But I can't help but think that. I'm like, okay, it might be okay for Ivy to be executing these people who deserve it and are truly guilty. But again, what happens if she makes a mistake? You can't unring that bell. So it's a really interesting place to be. But it's a comic book, and at the end of the day, I find myself agreeing with her. These guys are getting, they're reaping what they've sown. What's the big one recently? FAFO, right?
Yeah, that's right.
FO. That's a little bit what these guys are getting. The other thing that's interesting, Rocky's got it up on the screen if you watch this on YouTube, is at the very beginning, we get a little bit of Harley and Poison Ivy and a little bit of update on their relationship, which is really interesting, being that we have Sirens Love Hurts going on right now, which is Elseworlds, I get it, Black Label, whatever. But we're also getting Harley Ivy Life and Crimes, and it appears they've broken up. So neither, I won't speak for Rocky, but for myself, I don't necessarily think that they belong together. I don't think they necessarily make a great couple. I think I'd rather see Ivy with Janet from HR, honestly. So this was interesting. And what's funny is I didn't go looking for it, but I didn't see any blowback. And there are certainly times where you would have seen a lot of backlash online if someone were to intimate that Harley and Ivy were broken up. Yeah, because so many people love that relationship, but maybe they're just not reading this series and they're more focused on the other ones where they're more lovey-dovey. because this isn't really a Harley Ivy series at all. This really does just focus on Poison Ivy. But I go back to what I've said throughout this series. What an incredible job G. Willow Wilson has done, and she has elevated Poison Ivy to such a fantastic level. This is the most underrated series that DC is putting out. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I say all that to say it's in my top 5.
Yeah, it's in my top 5 as well. And I have to say that I can say point blank, I don't agree with what Pamela Isley's doing, but I don't care. I think she's been consistently well written by J. Willow Wilson. She's writing Pamela Isley in a way that I believe Pamela Isley would do exactly what she did. I believe she would kill that got corrupt that corrupt plumber, the guy who owned the plumbing company. He was building his family for generations. Was building piping and plumbing to divert chemicals from going and putting it into Gotham Harbor and doing all kinds of corrupt things. Yeah, he deserved to die. Of course, obviously, she shouldn't kill. But I like the fact that it really possesses a high amount of verisimilitude to me, because remember that Pamela Isley, Poison Ivy was still elected mayor. There was a guy who videotaped her killing another one of the previous mayor's minions. She still got elected mayor. And we still haven't got an explanation why she's not in jail. I don't know what happened to her. She was put in jail, and then at the end of the issue, she decides to run for mayor, and then the next issue, she's mayor. So we don't even know how the hell they ran the campaign and how she won. We got a pretty significant time jump here. But you know
Fake
what?
News.
I don't care though. I'm just glad we hopped right to it. I like it. And it makes sense that she's got her own way of governing. I also like the fact, I got to say this, I'm so glad that her and Harley broke up. And I find it hilarious. You know, Harley is saying, "What are you saying? You don't love me anymore?" And of course, Harley seems to be offended, but Harley, wake up. You're sort of a standing joke. You're the dumb blonde bimbo, and you're going to be your eye candy to Poison Ivy, and you are a liability if Poison Ivy is mayor. No question about it. It makes sense that they would break up. It makes sense that Poison Ivy would push her away and would get upset about it. But at the same time, I love the dysfunction because this is such a dysfunctional character, and because J. Willow Wilson has done such a good job. You know who's also a screwed up character? Pamela Isley screwed up. Janet from HR is screwed up. Harley is screwed up. And there's a love triangle there. And let's throw in Alethea, the character that Harley wants to sleep with over in her own series by Elliot Kalan. And so all of this crazy sexual intention relationship that this sort of like this open relationship that Poison Ivy and Harley have. I mean, I don't know why Harley, in theory, she seems to be upset, but yet, really? You don't mind if your girlfriend sleeps with whoever she wants? You sleep with whoever you want, but you're upset over this mayor thing? I mean, you disappear for months on end anyway. So it's one of those relationships where they're so accustomed, these two, with functioning and dysfunction, that it actually, as crazy as it is, I actually believe this nonsensical relationship that they have, because it's just been built up that way through the various stories that we've gotten. But J. Willow Wilson, God bless her, has managed to imbue Poison Ivy's life, as dysfunctional as it is, with enough believability that I'm actually buying it. And and like I say, I think this ties into Batman well, because it makes it makes sense to me. Poison Ivy knows that she's exposed herself by killing this plumber off, by killing this executive off. She also knows that, normally she'd be worried about Batman and Robin. She would, most of Batman's rogues, if they kill somebody, they're usually expecting, if they don't cover their ass, Batman's going to take them down. It makes sense that Poison Ivy wouldn't, would say, okay, yeah, let's go after Batman and Robin. I've got the power. I've got a city that has made me mayor despite the fact that I killed somebody to begin with, and they seem to have known it, and there's video evidence of that. I have some power here. And while it appears that this power that Poison Ivy hasn't necessarily gone to her head, how can it not go to your head? There has to be just a little part of Poison Ivy that says, look, I've got the power here to get away with a lot more than I used to be able to get away with. So why don't I push the envelope? And so I kind of like the tension there. And then to top it all off, as if that wasn't enough, we get there's still fallout from her killing Bog Venus. Because remember, she's supposed to be the negotiator between the green and the gray, and that there's fallout from that as well. And then of course the Janet from HR, she's debating whether or not to stay with Poison Ivy or maybe leave. And it's just I'm just saying the character work here is fantastic, easily in my top 5. And one of the higher points of the week for me was this comic. I haven't read Daredevil.
not just killed Bog Venus. 8 Bog Venus.
That's right.
Bog Venus. Maybe more. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. The character work is so great. And let's not forget Juhai Prakash, right? The liaison between the mayor's office and the Gotham City Police Department, who has some sort of magical powers that we know about. She shows up for a little bit here. She's warning Janet from HR, hey, you shouldn't trust your boss, whatever. She could be another one. We could have a quadrangle instead of a triangle, because there seems to be a little sexual tension there as well.
Yeah,
she seems to be an interesting character. And I'd be fine if it's just a triangle and Harley's the odd person out and kind of move on from her. All right. Up next, Bizzarro You're None, issue number 1, from writers Eric Carrasco and Kevin Smith. Nick Pitarra is the artist. Michael Garland on colors. Dave Sharp on letters. So this came in pretty low for me. Put it at number 8, purely based on the fact that I am not a Bizzarro guy. I don't really care for Bizzarro as a character. Now, all that being said, this is sort of a different version of Bizzarro than I've ever seen before. So I did enjoy what Kevin Smith and Eric Carrasco are doing in terms of doing something that feels new. I enjoyed the art by Nick Pitarra as well. I'm not quite sure why Bizzarro looks like, well, I know why Bizzarro looks like Bizzarro on the cover. He looks like Bizzarro on the cover because they want people that are Bizzarro fans to buy it. But inside the book, in the interiors from Nick Pitarra, he doesn't look like made out of rock, and he's not very pale complected. He just kind of looks like a meathead version of Superman. And he does sort of talk in that Bizzarro way at times, but he does seem a little bit more intentional or intelligent than kind of the Bizzarro that, me and Bizzarro kind of classic character. This character has a little bit more agency, a little more intelligence, and we're told he's a complete jerk, which he does come across that way. So probably my favorite thing about it is the art from Nick Pitarra. I think the art is excellent, including the color work. And because it is sort of a fresh take on, and I should mention the color work by, that's Michael Garland. But because it is sort of a fresh take on Bizzarro, I am enjoying it more than the Me M Bizzarro version. But I went in with no expectations and expected this to be last because I don't care for Bizzarro as a character. So the fact that it's 8th this week actually speaks a lot to how much I enjoyed it. But I think this was in your top 5, Rocky, so you probably have a lot more to say.
Yeah, I'll share that it was. I put it in at number 4 actually. I got to be honest. I'm a little bit torn. First of all, I was stunned by this story because Superman never makes an appearance here. What I thought was Superman was actually Bizzarro himself. And this was really, I thought I think it was the first, it felt like the first I think it's the first 13 pages. It's all Jimmy Olsen and Perry White. And I thought to myself, this is a Bizzarro Nun story. It's an origin story for Bizzarro. And this is a Perry White, Jimmy Olsen story. And for that reason, I was a little bit dismayed and a little disappointed and maybe a little bit upset. On the other hand, if I read the story, and I did read the story, I read it twice, it's actually a good story. It is comical. Even though it's a Perry White and Jimmy Olsen story, I haven't got nothing against Jimmy Olsen or Perry White. It was just about me managing my expectations, because if I actually go in and having read the story, it is entertaining. And what's interesting is that there's the duplicate ray of this villain who creates this duplicate, and the ray creates what appears to be Bizzarro or world. There's a Daily Planet newspaper that gets lost in space, and it's the Daily Planet newspaper that's discovered by Bizzarro. And Bizzarro himself, as he said, creates his square planet based on the Daily Planet newspaper. And so that's why he decides to fly to our Earth, to the DC Earth, to retrieve Perry White and Jimmy Olsen to drag them to Bizarro World because he wants them. He gets upset with Perry White and he appoints Jimmy Olsen the chief of the Daily Planet in Bizarro World, and Perry White has to fetch Jimmy Olsen coffee, which I think was very funny. And there's other hints here that this Bizarro, of course, is pretty mixed, is pretty screwed up psychologically. Obviously, no surprise, but this is a very different, there's no Lex Luthor here. That this wasn't the standard typical Silver Age origin of Bizarro. This is not that at all. And the art is truly fantastic. It really is good. This was simply a question of straight up, I had an expectation, and because I have preconceptions about Jimmy Olsen's stories. I'm generally not huge fans of them, although Matt Fraction did do a great Jimmy Olsen 12-issue series that I enjoyed, and he also, so he's he sort of won me over a little bit. I don't mind Jimmy Olsen. Perry White, though, together. Anyways, I was pleasantly surprised by this, and I do think that this first issue was largely set up. I think it's going to get better because a lot of this was set up, so I'm really curious to see where this is going to go. My one observation, it's not necessarily a criticism, is that because this is a first issue, how many people are going to be turned off by it because it's largely Jimmy Olsen and Perry White through a large part of this issue. I hope the fact that Kevin Smith is a good writer. I think Kevin Smith he's been in the news. He's had some controversies with Masters of the Universe and what have you. But I think as a comic book writer, Kevin Smith has a decent enough resume that he attracts. I pick up Kevin Smith's comics. He's got a Dark Horse comic that he does. Forget what it's called with this. That's right. I collect that. It's funny as hell. And so the fact that Kevin Smith made me laugh this issue is of no surprise to me at all. He's good at humor. And so I'm on board, and I did pick up. Yes, I got sucked in with a cover by. I had to pick up that Frank Quietly. Yeah, that cover of Bizarro is just absolutely fantastic. So I picked that up.
Every one of these covers. Again, I love the aesthetic of Bizarro. But again, this is not he doesn't look like this inside the book, so, take it with a grain of salt or whatever. But every one of the covers is a banger, man. Fernando Pastorin has a great cover. Ibrahim Mustafa, he has that, what is it, the Norman Rockwell looking Saturday Evening Post or whatever it's called, that's behind my head if you're watching us. Every one of the covers is fantastic. Yeah, so good. So, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the next issue, and I didn't expect that to be the case because I really don't care for Bizarro. All right, up next, this one's in my top 5, but only by default. It wouldn't be in my top 5 in a normal week. It's JSA Year 1, Chapter 6, issue number 18. Jeff Lemire is the writer, artist by Gavin Guidry, colors by Luis Guerrero, letters by Steve Wands. And it does have the Search for the Spectre Prelude Part 2, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Joey Vasquez, colors by John Kalis, and letters by Steve Wands. Again, the backup issue is a little bit more interesting, or the backup story is a little more interesting, even though it's just a few pages. And we're getting hints of the Spectre perhaps combining with the female Kid Eternity, which would be interesting, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. As far as the main story, it comes to a satisfying conclusion. But as we've said throughout, we've seen the story of JSA Year 1 so many times, and this isn't necessarily bringing anything new to it, although the Gavin Guidry art is pretty solid. So overall, it's a solid issue, if not memorable, and it comes in at number 5 for me. Anything to add, Rocky?
I thought Alan Scott's Green Lantern ring has no impact. It can't affect wood. And there's a scene here where the Justice at the end of the main story of Justice Society of America Year 1, Alan Scott's using his ring to lift up a wooden crate that contains the Justice Society silver table. I didn't think
so. He's actually
he can elevate it. He just can't.
He's manipulating the air molecules around the wood, and it's the air itself that's lifting the wood.
Oh, is that the explanation? Okay. All right, I'll go with that because I just thought that was a little bit odd. But anyways, I'm underwhelmed. I think this is there was no reason in the world why Justice Society of America needed a Year 1. I don't know why. There are, frankly, just plain better Justice Society stories. I don't understand why we got this. It was I thought it was extremely underwhelming. I was much more interested in the search for the Spectre at the end. I think it's very I like the New Generation Justice Society, or is it Infinity Incorporated? What is it? I wish this. I'm beginning to question the identity of this comic book. What does it want to be? Like, if you're going to focus on newer members, then are we focusing on Justice Society of America? Okay, if it's year one, we have adventures from Justice Society in the 1940s, and then we're getting, which is the equivalent of an Infinity Incorporated or New Justice Society All Stars at the back half. What is this comic? It has an identity crisis to me, and I just wish it would make up its mind what it wants to be, because I certainly am not a fan of the year one. I don't want to stay in the past. I was really hoping this was going to be a modern day take on Justice Society. It feels like it's all over the place, and I wish Jeff Lemire would become a little bit more focused, and just because maybe it's just me, but I just feel this is a little bit all over the place, and I'm not really sure where it stands in the continuity of things. And I know that's not a big deal. It's about story over continuity, and I can get into the story, but I haven't enjoyed the story with year one. And what I am interested in is a story that we're not getting enough focus of, and that is the present day Justice Society, whatever the makeup is. By the way, I just want to give a shout out. Remember how long it took Jeff Johns to tell his 12-issue Justice Society story? Because he dragged on and on and on. But that ended on quite a whopper, because Jeff Johns teased all these new members of the Justice Society, and there was a lot of seeds planted for future stories that we thought maybe would be told by Jeff Johns. That's not the case. Is Jeff Lemire not aware of that? Why doesn't he focus on that and look at those Easter eggs that were planted at the end of Jeff Johns' run and focus on that instead of giving us this? I'm really stunned that we're getting this. I'm shocked. But I don't know.
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, DC has distanced itself from Jeff Johns for a variety of reasons, and you can like it or not. I mean, that's just the reality. So I don't expect Jeff Lemire to pick up Jeff Johns' story threads at all, and I don't want him. Frankly, I don't want him to, because I want him to tell his own story. I don't disagree with you that, hey, let's get the modern JSA, and I think that's what we're going to get going forward. I think more than anything, this felt a little editorially mandated. We wondered out loud why they didn't start with this if they wanted to do year one, but I think it was a case where Jeff Lemire wanted to tell the story he wanted to tell. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to start off with them fighting against the Injustice Society for, a variety of reasons. And then I'll tell the origin, because let's face it, Rocky, you and I know the origin of the Justice Society, and we've read plenty of Justice Society, you more than me even. But that's 20 years ago now, 10, at least 10 years ago, 15. It was pre-New 52 when we really got the origin of the Justice Society. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've had it. So I'm sure editorially they're like, there's a whole new generation of comic readers that may not be aware of the origin of the Justice Society. So yes, Jeff, tell your Injustice Society story, but then give us a year one story. And hopefully that's done now, and we are going to focus on the modern day. Hopefully that's what we're going to do. What I really don't want, because you're right, especially with having a backup story, this book is struggling a little bit for identity. I agree with you there 100%. One thing that I will say that has going for it, though, it's not the most ringing endorsement, but every one of the covers, there's 3 different open order covers for Justice Society this week, and they're all bangers. Rocky's got 2 of them displayed right now, and the third is shown by Key and Torme, that's showing a bunch of different versions of the Spectre, which is awesome as well. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the next issue of the Justice Society holds, and I'm ready for the return of Wildcat. I find that I am missing him, less so because we were focused on the past, but once we get back to the present, I'm going to be ready for Wildcat to return as well. All right, up next, I don't even know how to review this, to be honest. It's Mad About DC #1. It's edited by Chip Zdarsky. It was kind of his brainchild. He's got a letter from the editor to kick it off, where he talks about what a fan of Mad Magazine he is and what a pleasure it was to do this. So he went around and recruited a ton of writers and artists from DC, and most of them do just a quick 1-page story or joke or what have you. Some of them it's 2 or 3 pages, but it's 55 pages. So conservatively, there's like 40 writers and 40 artists, and some of them do they do the whole thing. Writer and artist does their whole joke. Like Kyle Starks, he's got a couple page Dial H for Hero jokey story in here, and he writes it and he draws it. But yeah, conservatively, 30 to 40 creators. So I say all that to say apologies to everybody involved in this, that I'm not going to give a rundown of 30 writers and 30 artists for this particular book. I'm just not going to. It would take too long. But what I will say is everybody that contributed, just about, I think maybe there was only one story in here where I just kind of went, huh? And read it again and didn't really get it, didn't get the joke. But for a lot of them, I was laughing out loud. I think the art is fantastic. I read magazine when I was a kid. I didn't get every issue, but I certainly got plenty of them. Spy versus Spy was always my favorite feature. I love Spy versus Spy. There is a Spy versus Spy, or Spy versus Guy. It's Guy Carter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which is fantastic.
If I can find it, yeah.
Yeah, so many times I was laughing out loud while reading this. It's just so funny, and it's so on the note. If you read Mad Magazine as a kid, there's going to be plenty here that you're reminded of. Even with the Mad fold in at the back, where you used to fold a picture in and it would make a different picture. I'm not condoning that you fold your comic, but because you kind of know what it's going to be anyway when it shows up, and it's exactly what you expect it to be. But anyway, I really love this, and it's really hard to pick a favorite story, but man, the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo absolute cash in with the absolute condiment version of Condiment King.
Yeah,
I'm laughing right now.
Yeah, that's funny.
Right now. Like, what am I supposed to do? Fight the puddles? Like,
yeah.
This was so good. It was so good. I hope. Now, wouldn't want him to go to the well too often and do it once a year or whatever, but maybe once every 3 or 4 years. I wouldn't mind seeing this. I thought it was great. The other one that was really funny was the punt, the Scott Snyder and James Herron, which kind of makes fun of Batman punting that kid, absolute Batman punting that kid, like whatever it was, issue 4 or 5 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments from the absolute Batman series. So, yeah, I love this. I thought it was great. I'm kind of scrolling through now and looking again, and it's making me laugh all over again. So, yeah, this was just a heck of a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to like this as much as I did. I just thought, okay, whatever, because honestly, part of the reason that I struggled with Chip Zdarsky's work early on was I didn't find it to be as humorous as everybody else did. Like that Howard the Duck, like I remember reading the first couple issues of that over at Marvel and not liking it at all. But yeah, I thought everybody did a fantastic job. The art, the humor, and what a fantastic homage to Mad Magazine. So yeah, definitely in my top 5, no question. Yeah. Anything to add, Rocky?
Yeah. First of all, the thing that I openly laughed out loud was I was one of the ones who voted for Robin to be killed. And I had no idea that it says this Robin died because over 5,000 of you called the wrong number. Now you can call again to apologize. I absolutely love that. And just the threat from Jason Todd that we have to call back and apologize. I just want to say on the record that I apologize for nothing. That was the best photo I ever did, and I wish Jason Todd had stayed dead, and that's just the way I feel. But the
fact that it was only 5 votes difference is the thing that still gets me.
Yeah,
5,000 people voted. Over 5,000 people voted, and the difference was 5 votes.
Yeah, that's incredible. The other thing I really I like the pot shots they took at Wonder Woman. I just want to say that often when some will say, and you and I have the debates about when I go on a Wonder Woman rant, you can really see through humor what a publishing company thinks about their characters. And you can, if you read between the lines about some of the jokes here that are said on Wonder Woman when she makes an appearance, I think it's very telling, and it's hilarious, and it's also telling. I also love the pot shots at Power Girl, which were also quite good. I like the fact that all these creators are poking fun. Not only they poked fun at themselves personally, they poked fun at the characters, they poked fun at the comic book industry. These are people that have a sense of humor. These are all the creators at DC, all the creators of these characters. Let's be blunt here. Sometimes they're openly attacked and insulted online by certain factions of the comic book industry. Sometimes it can be very difficult. I don't know how some comic creators can do it with all the backlash they get from ranters and ravers. And sometimes I'm one of the ones doing the ranting. But God bless them. They have a sense of humor. If you don't believe me, pick up this comic. I think this is a good palate cleanser. And I would suggest that if you're somebody who happens to be feeling negative lately for the comic book industry in any way, shape, or form, I think this would be very therapeutic and cathartic for you. Pick this up. It will remind you that writers and creators, letters, all of them they've got a sense of humor, and they love these characters too, and they get it. They feel the same way about these characters too. Sometimes they can't do anything about it. They got it, and we know that because we talk to them at, and you know more than anyone, you interview them off the record and on. And this is often the quiet part being said out loud, and that's what's great about this. And this is just on comic books. I didn't normally collect Mad Magazine because it always dealt with celebrities, but these are my celebrities. These comic book characters are my celebrities. These creators are my celebrities. I would rather meet the writer of a random comic book than meet a movie star, quite bluntly. And that's what I love about this, is that it's that it's funny and it's poking fun at the hobby that we know and love.
Yeah, Kelly Sue DeConnick does this one where she's basically poking fun at the different stereotypes of people in the comic industry, comic goers and that sort of thing, retailers and what have you. And there's also the first ever meeting between Ambush Bug and Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Which is also fantastic.
Yes.
All right, we could keep going, but just go and pick this up. Definitely recommended. It was so fun. All right, last book we're going to talk about in detail, everybody, Batgirl 18. To no one's surprise, it comes in at number 9 for me. Didn't particularly enjoy it. Written by Tate Brombal, Takeshi Miyazawa on pencils and inks. Juan Castro also handles some inks, and Mike Spicer on colors with Tom Napolitano on letters. But also not surprising is that it is in Araki's top 5. So, my complaints are the same. I don't need to repeat them. I'm ready to move on. This feels like just one long story, which, again, all the power to Tate Brombal. This is what he wants to deal with, the martial artist and mystical aspect of Cassandra Cain. But that's just not. I like seeing her more in Gotham City, dealing with kind of the street level crime. So, anyway, it's right in your wheelhouse, dealing with the martial arts and that sort of legacy corner of the DCU, Rocky. So give us your thoughts.
First, I want to give a shout out to David Talaski on cover A. And I just want to give a shout out just for people out there who maybe engage in speculation from time to time. David Talaski, the cover A's on Batgirl, there's a little bit of heat on the secondary market. They're selling. People are picking them up. So David Talaski, who's doing the cover A's, open orders, and you can see the color work. It's beautiful. David Talaski's doing a fantastic job on these covers, and the variant cover is good too. But David Talaski's doing a really great job on the cover A's. Now, as for the story itself, I do have some minor concerns about it. One of the things that's being incorporated here is Spirit World, and I had sort of mixed feelings. You and I gave generally positive reviews to Spirit World, which that was a 6-issue series that dealt with, I always forget the main character's name. Chase, could you help me out? The Spirit World? Xanthi, right. And but now Xanthi Zhao makes no appearance here, but that's where Batgirl became aware of the Spirit World, and the Spirit World is a place where you go. There's a mythology to the Spirit World that is, I think it's a little bit complicated if you really get into the details here. And Tate Brombal does a reasonably good job of maybe just giving us what we need to know about Spirit World. I find it maybe for some newer readers, maybe it's just myself and I got to reread it a few more times, but I found it a little bit confusing, the Spirit World. Basically, Batgirl is to control the blood. She's part of the Wu clan, has the ability to control their blood, and since Batgirl is arguably she's been cursed that she now can manipulate her blood, and she's now in the spirit world, and the Wu clan, some of the members of the Wu clan have been killed, and there's possibly her mother, Lady Shiva, is in the spirit world trying to achieve some kind of redemption and has gone to the spirit world because she's not completely bad. I like there's one philosophical question here that's posed by one of the Wu characters, and I thought it was really, really good, the question that he posed, because it goes to the heart of whether or not Lady Shiva can attain redemption. And because, Batgirl refuses to believe that her mother, Lady Shiva, could ever go to spirit world, because in order to go to spirit world, you got to be good, and you essentially have to have a potential for redemption, and she doesn't believe her mother has that. And but the one character says something quite interesting. He says, "You forget, because an intention is only half the equation. If a good person tries to improve the world but only ever causes misfortune, while a cruel soul betters the lives around them, even unwittingly, to whom does karma favor?" And it's an interesting question. So you have somebody like Lady Shiva, who maybe had ill intention but ended up doing a lot of good in her life because she was such an anti-hero in many respects. What's the difference? What if you're a good person, but you always end up screwing up? Like Peacemaker, for example. Like, it's a legitimate question. Like, is karma going to punish the good person who does bad unintentionally? Why should you punish a bad person if they accidentally do good? And anyways, I thought it was sort of interesting because it goes to the heart of, because all these characters have some connection to spirit world. And if you've been enjoying these characters so far, I think this is going to be an interesting exploration of more detail of these characters. I think Tate Brombal still has some pacing issues. There are still some things I thought the transitions were a little bit, there's some things I'm still a little bit unclear on. So I think it could be better in some respects, but I think the art's still pretty good. And I like the fact that, something different is being done here. It's a different kind of story. And it's nice to have, again, the expanding mythology of the DC universe when it comes to martial arts is a good thing in my mind.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think every one of these covers is a banger. The one by Christian Ward behind my head, and then there's one by the interior artist Tezawa that's fantastic as well. So that does it for the books we're going to talk about in detail, everybody. There are a few other books that are out this week. We've got, I think, some second printings. Maybe not. Maybe.
Well, there's a couple of Batman fractions run.
Batman 676 Facsimile. There is. They're not showing up on my screen for some reason. Anyway, let's just move on to collected editions. There are a number of them this week. We have Batman Dark Patterns trade paperback, which is the 6-issue series from Dan Waters.
It's actually 12 issues. But
12 issues. Yes.
Right.
Yes, 12 issues. Thank you for that. And it's basically 3 4-part stories.
Yeah.
This is collecting the entirety of it. So,
High recommend.
Yeah. 352 pages for $30. Yeah, we really did enjoy it. We also have the first volume of Supergirl from Sophie Campbell, collects the first 6 issues of that. Green Arrow Volume 5, so that collects the end of that run, issues 25 through 31 from writer Chris Condon. Batman Beyond Unlimited Compendium. We got 1,240 pages of Batman Beyond. Collects collects Volume 3, miniseries 1 through 6, Volume 4, series 1 through 8, Batman Beyond Unlimited 1 through 18, Superman Batman Annual 4, Superman Beyond Zero, stories from Joker League Justice League Beyond digital series, and Batman Beyond Return of the Joker #1. So $60, 1,240 pages if you want to get your Batman Beyond fix. DC's Finest is giving us a Justice League of America Star of the Conqueror trade paperback. This is collecting the earliest stuff, right? Brave and the Bold 28 through 30, 28 being their very first appearance, and then Justice League of America numbers 1 through 19 and Mystery in Space 75. So that is the earliest appearances of the Justice League, everybody. Really inexpensive way to get those. 624 pages for $40. Wonder Woman Spirit of Truth is getting a new hardcover printing. This is the very, very famous image of Wonder Woman drawn by Alex Ross. It's the cover of this series. It's this one-shot graphic novel, whatever you want to call it, written by Paul Dini. I'd say Dini does a great job of getting to the heart of who Wonder Woman is as a character. That is 72 pages for $20. Batman R.I.P. is getting an absolute edition. Kind of referenced this earlier when we were talking about Dick Grayson taking over as Batman when Batman was lost in time. So this is during the Grant Morrison run of Batman, with most of the art being handled by Tony Daniel. So, and it is that absolute edition, not the absolute universe, but the absolute editions, which are larger size, basically reprinted at the size of the art that it was originally drawn. So 11.5 by 17. And then finally, Batman, the Golden Age Omnibus, Volume 3. So we got 784 pages, hardcover, $100. Basically stories from the 1940s. Detective Comics number 75 through 91. Batman 16 through 25. And World's Finest Comics number 10 through 14 in that collection. So those are the collected editions for the week. Time for our rankings. I will let you go first, Rocky. What do you have for your rankings this week?
Coming in at number 10, Justice Society of America, or JSA number 18. Coming in at number 9, Batman issue 8. Coming in at number 8, Adventures of Superman, House of L number 7. Coming in at number 7, Batman Static Beyond issue 5. Coming in at number 6, Batman Superman World's Finest issue 50. My top 5 are, coming in at number 5, Poison Ivy issue 43. At number 4, Bizzarro issue 1. Coming in at number 3, Batgirl 18. Number 2, Absolute Superman 18. For the first time in a long time, an absolute title didn't make number 1. But I gave my number 1 spot to Mad About DC number 1. I actually, it was a little bit of a, overall sort of like a lesser week for DC, which is a first world problem to have. But I really, I thought it just put a smile on my face, and I think I needed it to sort of refresh the batteries a little bit, and to laugh at the industry, laugh at myself, laugh at some of the things I get so hot-headed about, and just a reminder that these are comic books. We know and love them, but God, if we can't enjoy them and laugh at them from time to time, what's the point?
Yeah, fair enough. All right, my rankings coming in at number 10, Batman Superman World's Finest number 50. Coming in at number 9, I've got Batgirl 18. Coming in number 8, Bizarro Year None, issue number 1. At number 7, Adventures of Superman Book of L, number 7. At number 6, Batman Static Beyond, number 5. My top 5, at 5, JSA 18, number coming in at 5. Yeah, JSA number 18. Number 4, I've got Poison Ivy 43. At number 3, I've got Mad About DC, number 1. At number 2, Batman number 8. And then coming in at number 1, probably to nobody's surprise, we've got Absolute Superman number 18. Don't forget 3 first appearances in that book, everybody. So plenty of possibilities for value in the future. So that's going to do it for this episode. Appreciate everybody joining as always. Don't forget to head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel as well. Doing tons of content over there. Reviewed some independent books recently. Have my review of Daredevil up over there as well. Coming up, I've got an interview with Pornsak Pichichote that's dropping pretty soon about Absolute Green Arrow, as
right
well
on.
as Day
That's
2 Substack. Now, don't get your hopes up, everybody. It's still months and months away. There's not going to be tons of spoilers, but we do talk about it a little bit. So that's coming up this weekend, and some other great content dropping as well. So don't forget, you can also find all of our content on the Comic Source YouTube podcast, the Comic Source podcast feed, which is available on all different podcast apps and platforms. And if you are listening to us audio only and you want to see our smiling faces and the great art that we talk about in the DC Spotlight every week on Rocky's channel, just head over to YouTube. Comic Space Boom ! Is where the DC Spotlight drops every week. Once you're there, like, comment, subscribe. You guys know what to do. And that's going to do it. So we appreciate you joining as always, and we will talk to you next time.
Catch you later.